Remember the first ever mock call session that we had? Yes, you did leave your comments about those calls. Now today, I am finally going to provide my own feedback so that I can also give you tips about those types of calls. Hey there Ninja, welcome back to my channel. This is Rhea once again, and if we are just meeting today, I share real stories and tips to help you begin enjoying survive your call center lifestyle. So please consider subscribing. Just click the red subscribe button down below, and if you have already subscribed, thank you so much. The first mock call that we are going to talk about is also the first that we had, the one with the difficult customer situation with Mr. James Breed. So I'm going to take a look at my laptop right now and replay to you the specific points or parts of the call that I'd like to highlight and provide tips about. Okay?
Oh, hello, Mr. Breed. How can I make you smile today?
Okay, so that part, and I have my notes just in case I forget. The agent, I'm just gonna say the agent because I was acting during that call and just think that it wasn't really me at all. So the agent said, "How can I make you smile today?" This is actually an example of using personalized or customized statements during your greeting. It's very important not to overdo it, but to be able to deliver it in a very natural way. So when you say, "How can I make you smile today?" it's a different type of response from the usual or the default, "How can I help you today?" or "How may I help you today, Mr. Smith or Mr. Breed," right? So if you want to make an impact at the beginning of the call, then I suggest you use different types of statements that can immediately get the attention of your customer. So even though it is a difficult customer situation, somehow when your customer hears that, at least the customer knows that you are there to listen. It may not work on all customers, but it is definitely worth trying. Also, I noticed that some of you mentioned why or asked why there was no verification or authentication. Yes, that's true because in some accounts, the account or the profile of the customer just pops up on the screen because of the type of verification that their IVR or interactive voice response system does. So you notice that in that particular call, I did not do verification or authentication. I just asked for the name, okay, which was, it's different for different types of accounts or companies. Some will have verification each and every call, but from what I have experienced, it's also possible that the system will automatically verify the customer and you only need to ask for the customer's name or other account information. So it's really different. So assuming in that call that there was no need for additional verification, I just asked for the name of the customer.
Why do I have fees on my bank account? I want those removed. Very ridiculous. I can't even afford them.
Oh, I understand that fees are really costly. Let me check your account to see what really happened.
So obviously the customer's concern was about the fees that were charged on his account, and he wanted the fees to be removed. So in this case, the agent was able to provide empathy statement. And of course, since it's a fee type of call, it is almost always imperative that you really have to provide empathy statement. Just a simple, "I understand that those fees are costly. I am very sorry to hear that, Mr. Customer. I understand that those fees are very inconvenient for you." So there are different types of empathy statements that you can provide to the customer. You don't always have to say, "I'm sorry." You don't always have to say, "I apologize," especially if it's not really your fault, but at least provide an empathy statement. and a genuine or true empathy statement at that.
Okay, and remove the fees.
I'll see what I can do, Mr. Breed.
Okay, so as you have noticed, the agent at this point did not really confirm right away that, yes, I can help you with that, or that, no, I can no longer remove the fees, or there's nothing I can do about it anymore. That's actually very important that I always point out, because some agents, when they hear that the customer says, I need you to remove the fees, there's always the immediate response of saying that I cannot remove the fees anymore, or sure, I can help you with those fees, right? It is almost involuntary that you respond that way. But I always suggest that before you respond or before you say anything at that, tell the customer that you are going to check on it first, because you don't even know what's going on with the account just yet. And once you respond that, yes, I can help you with that, it is really like a promise right there and then that you can help the customer with a concern. So what if, you really can't remove or refund the fees at all? Then the customer will say, I thought you can help me with this. So I try to avoid that kind of response at the beginning of the call. So instead of responding right away, I usually just say, Mr. Breed, I will be very glad to check your account for you and see what I can do. So you are not overly promising, but you are acknowledging and telling the customer that, yes, I'm going to do what I can do, and I have to check your account first.
I have checked. You were charged some fees because you were not able to pay on time.
Okay, so that part is very important to me, because this is what I always tell my trainees or my agents. Try to, learn, or not try, but actually do your best to learn how to use customer-centric language, positive scripting, and not the blaming language. So if you notice, the agent said, you did not pay on time. So it's like blaming the customer that you did not pay on time, so you just deserve these fees. Well, in most cases, it might be true that the customer really did not pay on time, and that's the reason that he was charged fees. But we don't want to slap that customer of that reality, because we are trying to help and we are trying to resolve the situation. And using blaming language will just add insult to the injury, or will just make the situation worse. So you can rather say, there was no payment made before the due date. There was no payment made before the cutoff time. That was why the account was charged of fees. Okay, do you see the difference? Instead of saying you were charged because you did not make the payment. So instead of saying you, try to turn the situation around and make it not about the customer all the time. Because you never really know the struggles or what the customer situation is. So it's better to be more sensitive.
So that means we really cannot do anything about it anymore.
Another use of the blaming language is we cannot really do anything about it anymore. So it's like the dead end situation for the customer. And although that might be true, you can, again, turn the situation around and tell the customer that the fees can no longer be removed. So you see the difference between the blaming language versus the non-blaming language. I actually explained more about that on one of my previous videos that I'm going to link up there. So check it out. It's more on positive scripting.
I already told you the reason, and I'm afraid you'll have to pay the fees for now.
All right, at this point, the agent's voice was already sounding annoyed, or the tone of voice was rising. And with the use of the words, I already told you. Okay, so that's a no-no when it comes to customer service, because even though you kept on repeating the customers, or even though you kept repeating the explanation that you have for the customer, there is just no reason to say, I already told you, because that just sounds rude and sounds disrespectful. You should be able to choose your words wisely and avoid those types of trigger words, because your customer might get really, really mad and might even call or ask for a supervisor because of the way you are responding to that customer and to that situation. So instead of doing that, you might as well be patient and change or rephrase your explanation every single time the customer tries to ask again about having the fees removed or begging something to be done when it cannot be done anymore.
I'm really, really, really sorry, sir.
No, you're not sorry.
Okay, now at this point, as you've seen, the agent was saying sorry, but it did not really sound like she was sorry at all. So when you say sorry or when you apologize, when you empathize, try to mean it as much as you can. Try to put yourself in the customer's shoes. I know this is not an easy job, and a lot of people say fake it till you make it, or as long as you provide an empathy statement, even though you're not genuine, you'll just hit your QA evaluation or CSAT or whatever metric you have. But I always, in every call, I always try to identify with the customer, or like put myself in that situation where, what if I was the one that was charged fees and it might have been my mistake, but everybody makes mistakes. So overall, this call was about policies, fees. So it's very difficult, especially if it's like a dead end kind of situation. When you are explaining about policy, I know that it is policy, but try your best not to sound too stiff about it, because it's already policy. Like someone reading a disclosure that according to our policy, you can no longer remove the fees because this and that. So it really sounds like you are a robot, right? So try not to do that by stating your company policy in a more understandable way, or in layman's terms, like the customer would really understand what it is about. You have to be firm about it. If you really cannot remove the fees, then you really cannot remove the fees. If there is no way that a supervisor can remove a fee, then okay. But if there is a way for you to do that, then why not do that, right? Actually, in difficult situations like this, I would always suggest to have at least 3 to 5 different scriptings that you can use, or different verbiages or statements that you can use to respond to your customer right away. Those that do not imply that you are just, very stiff, or you are just not helping the customer at all. So prepare 3 to 5 statements so that when you get difficult calls, you always have the best statement to respond to that customer. You just have to tweak it or change it or adjust it depending on the situation. Now, there are so many possible resolutions in this type of call. Different accounts, different companies have their own resolutions, and it's really up to them. So if you have this type of call, then of course you have to follow the guidelines of your account or of your company. Although I noted some possible resolutions that might be or can be given to the customer, can be done by a customer service specialist. So I wrote here, you can offer a payment arrangement if that is possible on your account, like if the customer wants to pay on installment basis, especially for big amounts, or if the customer's fees have already added up. Also, since in this type of call, if you remember, the customer said that I have been a customer for 5 years or more than that, then customer loyalty should also be considered. In most cases, companies provide one-time courtesy refund, or maybe more than that. So you can probably provide a one-time courtesy refund or goodwill refund if that is possible. Another resolution is that ask your team lead or supervisor to do the refund. Or if it's allowed in your company, then you can transfer to a supervisor. Again, only if it is allowed in your account or company, because some companies or accounts have, you know, strict guidelines and only supervisors can do fee refunds or things like that. So maybe that's possible, right? Also, do not forget to provide self-service tools if that is also available in your account. Like the customer wants to set up alerts, wants to check the account online, reminders, so that he or she won't forget the payments. If you want to see more comments, more interactions, you can check out the mock call video interactive session that we had. I will link it on the pinned comments. You can check it right away. The comment section are really filled with good comments, interactions, and everything, so you can also learn from other people. And so that's about it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you really learned something from the tips that I provided. Those are very simple but very, very actionable and doable. Remember, I have videos every Wednesdays and Fridays. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't yet. See you again next time. Take care and bye.